with this presentation, we have Jack Melbourne talking about, I say gig, but it seems that it's not gig, it's gig. Gig. Gig was some from my.
A jig is a dance.
Okay. Jack, the floor is yours.
Thank you, first of all, Giuseppina, for the presentation, and it was the perfect introduction to what I will be discussing now in my presentation. So, just to introduce myself, I'm a PhD student here at Bocconi, and thanks to the foundation, I was able to explore this industry that is has been emerging rapidly and therefore has little empirical evidence on it. And slightly different to what Giuseppina was looking at, where she was able to provide or go into a qualitative study and build some descriptive evidence on the sector, which is very important because there is little data that is on the gig economy. What I do is kind of I zoom out a bit more and use administrative data sets to explore how gig work interacts with more traditional forms of employment. And so, the pointer here. So first, I'll start with saying that there's new work on the block. So traditionally, when you thought of work, you would think of a doctor, you may think of a construction worker, or you may think of a cleaner. And these types of work are work which is contracted, you're given a set number of hours, and you're given a wage, and you know that for the duration of your contract, that you will have those terms. And if you fulfill the terms, then you will be rewarded with a wage. Now, in the last 15 years, there's been a rapid increase in an alternative type of work, which is gig work. And so most of you have probably been in a city in which you need to get from A to B. You don't have a car, so you get a taxi through the Uber platform, or you need a place to stay. So you'll look on Airbnb beforehand, and you'll find an accommodation which will host you for a weekend or maybe a week. Or you might want to have food for the night, or you need something delivered on demand. So you will turn to a company such as Glovo, who will take whichever you request, your order, from the place that it's coming from to you. And these are very different, so you can see that there's a clear distinction between the work which is on the right, is coming from these platforms, because they're one-shot. So you're contracted for to perform a specific task, otherwise known as a gig, and that's why it's called gig work. So once you pick up the person in your Uber and you drop them off wherever they need to go, your contract is complete, it's terminated, it's done. So also if you rent your house, or if you deliver food or something. So just to go into what is gig work more specifically, this is work that is contracted on a per task basis. And so how is this characterized, and how does this differ from traditional forms of employment? Well, it's easily accessible. So as Massimo was asking, what do you need as a requirement to be able to work? Well, yes, you do need some, you need to have a permesso di soggiorno if you're Italian, and you need to have some form of identification, but beyond that, you don't need anything, and it's something that you can access and start working usually within a day. This is very different from going through an application process where you submit your CV, you may be evaluated against other candidates, and then you're selected. There's no limit on the number of people that can work for the platform, and you only need a bare minimum. It's also very flexible, so you don't have working hours. You log into the platform, you say, I'm available to work, and once that's, if you're given a task, then you can accept it, complete it, and earn money, and it's in your account within a week or two. However, this comes with some downsides, so you're not given Social Security. If you're fired, you don't have any kind of unemployment insurance that you're given, or if you're injured, these are also very precarious. As you may have seen riders, they are injured quite frequently. If they are injured while they're completing a task, they don't receive any kind of compensation for this, and there's no fixed wage. So there's a lot of volatility in the amount that you can earn. So you do see a lot of variation in how much an individual might earn in a week or even in a year. Some earn up to about 30, can even earn up to 20,000, 30,000. This requires a lot of deliveries, but you can see that there is a lot of variation. So why is it important to study? Well, we have seen that over the last 10, 15 years, this has gone from something that didn't exist to now, or in 2018, at least 10% of people in the US have participated in the gig economy. And what we can see in Italy or the UK or the US is that between 5 to 14% of individuals have engaged in solo self-employment gig work. So those are numbers that are relevant for Europe. So what I want to understand is how has the introduction of this new work, how does it interact with more traditional forms of employment contracts, and how might it also influence unemployment spells? So you could think about this in two ways. You could think that there might be complements to working as a gig worker. Why is this? Because you can receive money more easily, it's more accessible, and also more flexible. And so you might be willing to take a job that you would otherwise not accept because you don't earn enough money, and combine it with gig work, which I call occupation bundling, and then you're more likely to accept the job. Also, you might have a lower reservation wage because of this, because you now have an income which is coming from the outside, so you might be less picky in the types of jobs, because you know you can complement the wage that's coming from a traditional contract with that from the gig economy. And also there are social networks that form. And this is something that is very important, and something that I will consider in my research, because you interact with riders, and you can gain social capital, you can gain familiar with a country. As we've seen from Josepina's research, there are many foreign riders, depending on if you're in the north or if you're in the south, but there are many foreign riders, and these people are not familiar with the country, the context, and through gig work they may form networks that can help embed them in society. However, you could also think that there's substitutability. So now you can see here that I put also higher reservation wage. You may be more picky in the types of jobs that you choose, because you have this outside option which is giving you some form of income. You also have less time for a job search, because when you're working as a gig worker, it's very demanding, and you don't have the possibility to look for a job, and also you don't have the possibility to build up skills which may be relevant for the job market. So with that being said, what is my application? So I have data, administrative data, from both a platform, one of the 4 largest platforms that is operating in Italy. And what I do is I combine this with administrative data on all dependent working contracts in the Veneto region. So this platform operates in 33 communes across the region, and it has had a staggered rollout throughout this time. So it first opened in Verona in 2017, 2018 in Padova. You can see that those are the 2 largest cities in the region, so there is obviously some kind of selection into where they begin operations. And then you can see up until there were no openings in 2020, and then in 2021, 2022, there was a massive opening, which probably was it was interrupted by COVID. And we can see that the scale, so the amount of deliveries which have been completed over time, is something that's growing exponentially. So what we see in 2000, so up till 2017, there were no deliveries that were completed by the platform. And then we see skyrocketing up till 2023, we see 175,000 deliveries which have been completed. So, so this represents 28% year-on-year growth, and we know that there is about 360,000 riders for this platform itself. So then what do I do is I use this staggered rollout across the region to try and understand how does the presence of the platform influence unemployment and also employment, and then I try to understand what are the factors that are driving this. So this is just an event study. I tried not to be technical. I didn't want to have any regressions to make this as accessible as possible. But just to give the intuition about what I'm showing here is that up until this point, basically I want to, the idea is that there's no effect, and then this is where the platform was introduced, and then I want to see what happens as a result of it. So this is on a yearly basis, and up until the platform was introduced, I see that there was no effect, there were no differences in areas which had the platform versus didn't. And then as soon as the platform is introduced, we see that there's increase in unemployment almost immediately within the year. And so this is going to kind of the substitute side of the mechanisms I outlined, because now individuals might be more likely to wait for a job so that they because they can receive some income through gig work. And then what I do is I also compare. I wanted to see whether there's differences in how this operates for Italians and non-Italians, and we can see that the effect is generally the same. The estimated effect is generally the same, but we can see that it's more significant for individuals. So this points to the network story, which is a complement. But then, surprisingly, what we also see is that there is an effect on employment. So, but this is more delayed. So up until the platform is introduced, we do see that there are differences beforehand, but also we see a very strong and positive effect on full-time employment after the platform is introduced. And we can see that 4 years after the platform is introduced, we see about 10 percentage point increase in the amount of employment. And the point estimates are more or less the same for Italians versus non-Italians, although it's only significant for the non-Italian individuals. And so you might ask yourself the question, well, why do we have this increase in both unemployment and employment? And so actually what is happening is that individuals are actually entering into the labor force more. So what you have is you have individuals who are foreign. They may have contracts which are in the shadow economy, and what they're doing is they're coming out of the shadow economy and they're entering into the labor force. So they're declaring themselves ready and available to work, and as soon as they receive a job offer from the unemployment office, they should enter into that job, which would potentially drive the effects on employment that are more delayed, but the unemployment which happens much sooner. So we see individuals, as soon as the platform is introduced here, we can see that about 10 percentage points increase in the labor force participation. So this is actually, individuals are actually entering into the labor force. It's flipped. And this is the exact same point estimate as we saw in the previous slide. And then what I also want to understand, and this is kind of an ongoing research, is how does this effect depend on your country of origin? So what we can see, and this is actually the map of Milan, so I wanted to create a map which is more familiar to individuals, is how do riders cluster their nationality. So what we can see is that in Milan, Italians, they work more in the northwest and southeast of the city. And what we see is that non-Italians, they cluster more along this, along the southwest and northeast of the city. And so what this does is this forms some clusters in which individuals share knowledge about working and maybe how to register as unemployed, how they can find a job, and so on and so forth. And this is now part of the ongoing research in which I would like to understand, are the firms that individuals work for similar if they're working in similar places through the platform. So I leave you at this. This is where I stand with my research, and I would like to say thank you to the Foundation for allowing this research to go ahead, and for the great event today.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I didn't get how you measure unemployment, employment. Is residence, at the local level. The question is, can you address mobility between municipalities? Because I guess that if the opening of this platform in Vicenza can attract people from around, and so increase the labor force participation in Vicenza because of internal mobility. Any possibility of addressing this issue?
Yes. So there is a possibility in the data. I have the commune of residents, and I have the commune where they work. And then I also have the administrative data, so I can see if they're operating. And my idea is to try to understand kind of the radius in which the presence of the platform might attract someone. So how far is somebody willing to travel to work for the platform? So this could definitely also be a channel in which it could be driving the results.
Thank you. Thank you very much.